Hello and welcome to the THOMCAST. I'm Tom, President and Dictator for Life of 515comics.com. On today's episode, I'm going to take a look back at Nextuus over the last year. I know that that's kind of what I've been doing with all of the THOMCAST episodes up until now, but I thought it would be fun just because if you didn't know, Nextuus actually started on Christmas Eve 2006. I posted up the first 4 pages of Nextuus as it appears on 515 Comics today. And in those 6 years, a lot has changed with how I do the comic and how I treat the comic and what the site means to me, but especially a lot has changed in the last year. And since it's the end of the year as well as the anniversary of Nextuus, I thought it would be pretty cool to just put together some of the images and talk about some of the big events that have really shaped what the comic means to me and what I want to do with it in the future. So let's take a look. So about this time last year, I started to receive the first proofs of Nextuus Volume 1. I spent a good chunk of the previous year working on getting this book ready, editing all the pages, making sure all the sizes were right, just, generating all of the extra content that needed to go into the book and formatting it so that it would fit on the page. The editing process did take quite a long time, and near the end of it, all I wanted was to have a completed book in my hands. But let me tell you, even just receiving that first proof copy, even with all of the issues that there were with the first proof, it was just astounding to actually see my comics in a book. Even though it was something that I was making myself, it was just so special to actually hold it in my hands and say, I did it. I did it. I set out to do this thing and I did it, and here it is. So it was really wonderful to even just reach that step. Even though that wasn't the end, it was great to finally see the book how it was going to be, only it was going to be better because it wasn't even close to being done being edited. But it was still a pretty momentous occasion for me. In January of 2012, the book was finally done, and we had a great big party to launch the book. Had a lot of really good friends and family come to the event. Trey was there. We signed a bunch of books for people. Got a lot of people reading it for the first time, and some people who'd been fans of the book long before it was actually in print who were there to see it launched. Even made a couple cutouts of 115 and the Hooded Man for people to take pictures with, which was pretty fun. All in all, it was a really great time, and it was a lot of fun to talk with everybody about it and get that boost of support. Now my webcomic actually had something sellable attached to it, and so the 515 guys and I decided it was time to go to our first convention, which would be SpringCon in Minnesota. We also decided, in the spirit of trying a bunch of new things, that we would attempt to make a Kickstarter campaign for our trip to Minnesota. We had a pretty small goal. We were really just trying to raise some extra money for gas, and it ended up being a pretty fun experience. It was a lot of fun interacting with the community on Kickstarter, and it was really cool that there were so many people who were just happy to give a little bit, to get some swag and help us achieve our goal. Thanks again to everyone who made a contribution. As part of our Kickstarter and as part of our plans to go to conventions, I decided to work on another product to sell, a mini book which would become known as The Hunt for the Ramos Emerald. Our first convention was at the end of May, so in early February I started work on the project. Originally, I intended the story to be kind of small, maybe only 20 pages or so, but I ended up writing it long and couldn't quite trim it down. It ended up being just over 30 pages, and I worked myself like a dog all the way down to the deadline to finish the thing. I got the books the week before we left for the convention in May. The Emerald story is basically just a prequel tale. It takes place a couple years before the main storyline of the webcomic, and just introduces you to a couple of the characters and themes of the comic. The conventions themselves were amazing. I won't go into too much detail since the last THOMCAST was entirely about my experience at the conventions. But what can I say? I got to spend time with my friends, I got to meet a lot of great new people, and hopefully I snagged more than a few readers in the process. All in all, it was great. I'm so glad that we went to 4, and I hope that we go to at least as many again this next year. I know I just said that exact same thing in the last THOMCAST, but I really feel that way. It was a lot of fun, and I don't regret a minute of it. And of course, all the while this year, behind book launches and convention trips, the comic has been trudging mercilessly forward. Around last November, I decided to update Nextuus 3 times a week, and even with the occasional filler post, we managed to put out nearly 140 pages since last Christmas. And it's been a great time to be churning through pages so quickly, as last year when we were in Chapter 10, many of the side stories of Nextuus started to converge, and there has been a lot of excitement since that happened. We saw John and Katya stow away on the True Mark, with the Nix and the NPDF hot on their heels. We saw about how handy 115 was with a missile launcher. We learned a little bit more about the Wei-Wucrai and their plans to get the map to the Ocean Shard back from Randall. We experienced what it's like to have a psycho remove a tooth. And most recently, we've seen to what lengths some will go to protect others around them. It has been great seeing the story take shape over the course of the last year, and I cannot tell you how happy I am that so many of you have taken an interest in it. I'm excited to continue the tale in the coming year and work on the next collected volume, as well as at least one more mini-book before the next year is out. As always, thanks for reading, and thanks for watching.
Seriously? A puppet show? This is the best that you could do? Are we seriously doing this right now? Seriously?